You are live. It's alive. Pre-flight brief. I don't see anybody here yet. I put out word today, too, to remind folks. But
Dizzy sent me an email.
Who did? Dizzy?
Yeah.
Hmm.
What he asked a question about. What is the LP you have next to the arrow in your ready room?
Oh, upper right corner there. It's to your as you're looking at it, Fig. It's to your right.
That way?
No, it's on the other side at the base of the arrow.
Oh, LP. It's not. It's just a picture. It's just a picture, Dizzy.
All right. I don't know what.
Now we got one
Taco
comment.
Bell. Tall Tales with Taco Bell's here.
It's Taco.
There you go. Taco, sweet. He had the most popular opening story. Of course, it went on for 15 minutes.
Yeah, but it was great. It was fucking great.
That one was fantastic, Yort. They were fucking with a right seater in the C-130. Wow. And some guys on the ICS in the back going, "It's a Navy Hornet. We need gas. Our GNS dumped, and we don't know where the fuck we are." And then they're like, "Oh, sir, that hose is bad. We can't give them gas." Oh well, so they tried to give them gas, and they caught on fire and had to eject out over the North Atlantic in the winter. And the rest of the crew, C-130 crew, conspires to keep it a secret. And this first officer, or the right seater co-pilot in the C-130, a new lieutenant in the squadron, and he's just sweating his balls off. Like, I'm going to get fucking court-martialed for hiding the fact that 2 guys ejected and we didn't tell anybody.
Don't tell anybody.
Yeah. Fuck it. They were going to die anyway. So, oh, man. All right. Well, I think we're ready to rock and roll, right?
You look like you're on a layover, bro. Is that true?
I am on a layover.
All right. Well, we don't talk about. So we're live. So we don't talk about big boy jobs.
The company,
but we'll
100%.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say I'm on a business trip if it comes up because technically.
Yeah. Do you
go.
you know who Bill Wilson works for?
Yeah.
Okay, I work for the same company. You don't.
And so does he.
Exactly.
So does Yort.
Oh, you do?
What company? What company?
Nice. All right, we got to talk offline.
Same business trip company.
Welcome, badass. Badass is here.
Who's flying a 777 down to Cancun tomorrow? Not this guy. I wouldn't be doing that.
No.
All right. Let me find, where the hell did Acorn go? All right, Acorn. There we go. Got that. Trying to darken down the.
How much longer till this fucking 6 o'clock thing starts, dude?
Right? Exactly. I'm almost there. Almost there. There we go. I'm trying to move. See the glow on my screen? I'm trying to get rid of it.
Oh, who cares? There it goes. Don't worry about it. Nobody gives two shits.
Exactly. There it goes. Now the glow on my screen is, well, I got to look good. It is better to look good than to feel good. All right. Over to notes. You got the notes. You got the email, right? All that good, happy crap.
I think so.
All right. Here we go, man. We are.
Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting.
This here is a true story about crossing the pond at night in the world's smallest cockpit on the tanker through the weather. Oh, and to the tanker crew who did that, thanks a lot. We really appreciated that. I'm just kidding. No, I'm not. Well, there I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the...
So there I was. It was August 2017, about 100 miles west of Key West in the Tiger airspace. My call sign's Viper 2. I'm being led around by a guy whose call sign is Rub. Pretty benign mission. Not a lot was going on, kind of a radar intercept. And Ivan, who's our controller, comes over the radio and says, "Hey, Viper 2, can you head to the Phantom airspace?" And I say, "Sure, why?" And he says, "We think we lost an airplane."
Ooh.
Ooh, that is.
Ooh.
Oh.
Think
Ooh.
they think they lost an airplane.
Ooh.
Yeah. Well, that is how terrifying aviation tales begin. Hey, greetings, everybody. Repeat here, coming to you from New Hampshire. And where's Max?
I am in God's country, Kearney, Missouri, baby.
There
Just
you
outside
go.
Kansas City. And it is our distinct pleasure to welcome Yort. And that is
Yort.
a terrifying beginning, my friend.
It was indeed. But speaking of beginnings, you didn't start off flying west of Key West. Where did you start off flying, and how'd you get interested?
I think my first memory as a child was coming back from England. I was about 3 years old. And I remember distinctively looking over the wing, over the Atlantic, and having that feeling of just suspension, as in, what am I doing up here? How are we up here? Why does it smell like coffee and cigarettes? Because you could smoke on airplanes back then.
Right, yeah.
And then, a couple of years go by, and my dad was in the Air Force. I grew up at Eglin Air Force Base. He was in the test program. And on base, they had these old airplanes, B-25s, B-17s, maybe a B-24. And I was about 7 or 8 years old. My dad was at work, and he took me and a couple of my friends whose dads were also in the Air Force, and we were crawling around these airplanes under the belly. My friend says, "Hey, I bet we can crawl in one of these things." And I say, "There's no way, come on." So we start moving things around. And sure enough, one of my buds finds an open hatch. We crawl into a B-17, and we crawl up to the front. And I remember distinctively just sitting in the cockpit and looking at the dials and the controls. Top Gun hadn't come out yet. Yeah, this is the early 80s. So Top Gun hadn't come out yet, but I'd seen the Battle of Britain. No, the old movie that came out, I believe, in the late 40s, early 50s.
Okay.
And I remember just the sense of, wow, something happened in this cockpit. People were in this cockpit doing something. Now, maybe it was one of the last ones they built. And that really set it off for me. And then some stupid movie in the mid-80s came out about carrier aviation, which I had no idea about, because only the cool people at the time flew F-15s and F-16s, because I grew up on an Air Force base.
Well, there you have it. Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. All right. So then, well, obviously you had the interest. What'd you do about that? And how early did you pursue it?
Yeah. So I did the normal things you would do in high school. Hey, I've got a letter in sports. I've got to get good grades. I've got to take an ACT, SAT score. I got to be competitive. I thought about the Naval Academy. I thought about the Military Academy, even thought about the Air Force Academy. But I spent one weekend at the University of Florida, my senior year in high school. And I thought,
right on.
This is the only school I'm going to apply to. And that's where I went.
Nice.
So I did the ROTC thing the second semester, right? So I was in a fraternity. First semester was pretty busy. Second semester, I'm walking across campus in my midshipman outfit. I don't know if I even have it on right because no one taught me. Since I joined the second semester, they just threw me a sea bag and said, "Put this uniform on." Before the internet was really prevalent, so I just had to guess and put things around. And I'm walking across campus, and this Marine Corps captain in his Deltas says, "Hey, midshipman, come over here for a second." And I hadn't been taught to salute, but I'd seen enough movies to know that, hey, you walk up to someone and your arm comes up, and I'm sure it was something like this. Yeah. And he says, "Hey, son, have you thought about your future?" At least that's what I remember. And he has all of these brochures out, and they have Harriers and F-18s and CH-53s and CH-46s, maybe even a V-22, even though we didn't have them at the time. And he says, "How would you like a guaranteed air contract?" And I said, "Well, what is that?" And he says, "Well, instead of competing against all these other guys in ROTC, I could guarantee that after you go to OCS 2 summers in a row and you get a commission and you maintain a mighty 2.0 GPA, you're going to go to flight school." Yeah. He didn't mention the basic school. We'll talk about that later. Yeah. And I said, "Well, that sounds pretty good. Guaranteed air contract. I know what I'm going to be doing." So I signed on the dotted line, took the physical, raised my right hand my freshman year into my sophomore year, and trained with the Navy SEALs at ROTC to get ready for OCS. And that's how I met a lot of my friends that I'm still friends with today, was through that program, PLC program.
Very
So
cool.
did you tell the ROTC program, thanks, but I got a better offer? Or what the hell? I mean, how'd that work?
Well, I had the momentum to move towards PLC, but I wanted to milk ROTC out. So that summer, they flew us in a G550 to Pensacola to go fly a T-34 as midshipmen. That was the last official thing I did. I came back and I said, hey guys, thanks, but no thanks, but I'm going to do this other program. You may have heard about it called PLC. And they went, oh, we lost another one. And they lost a fair amount of guys to that program. And how could you say no?
No,
Right?
right?
Exactly. Well, that's what I did, was a PLC program. But after my first summer, I was stupid enough to go back. I failed life's IQ test. I went back for more of that torture, as clearly as did you. It's like, holy crap. I wonder how many guys went back after PLCs and said, hey, can I do that ROTC thing?
Well, there is a reason why there's 2 companies at juniors and 1 company at seniors. Because automatically, half the people-ish decide, I can't go back to that. But even then, I knew people that made it through seniors that said, you know what, I'm just not cut out. I don't want to do it.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah. Well, Fig and I were both pretty pissed. And in fact, the way I put it is Quantico still owes me an apology. But
yeah, I had called the Navy recruiter that was hounding me before I went to OCS, and I called him when I got back. I was pissed. I graduated, I was pissed. I had 1 year of college to go and get commissioned. I called him up and I said, hey, I just got back from OCS, graduated. And he goes, hey, congratulations. That's really great. I got, okay, cool. So now what do I got to do to get a Navy commission? And he goes, you got to go to Navy AOCS. And I said, oh yeah, well, fuck you. And then I wasn't so mad anymore. I got over it.
Yeah. Well, I still wonder about those guys, the platoon sergeants, and I wonder, what are they doing? Because I don't wake up at night, but I still wonder, wow, they pretty much own you for as long as they did. There's a guy named Sergeant Masters. Maybe some of your listeners remember him. You didn't have to be in his platoon or even his company to know who he was, because he was the guy that just said, yo-ho, across the parade deck. And you probably heard 10,000 yoo-hoos when you were there with him, just because that was what he did. And he did the death grip. And if he was talking to you, you thought he was just going to reach across the room and kind of do the Darth Vader
your voice
thing,
box out.
Yeah.
We've had some of those guys on. It's a special kind of sadistic that they have. But God, every one of them has a backup career in stand-up.
100%.
No shit.
So
The novelty of that wears off after the first couple hours. You think, I'm going to watch Full Metal Jacket a couple times, and that's how I'm going to prepare for OCS. And after about 4 or 5 hours, this is pretty bad. It's not funny anymore. I'm waiting for the jokes. When are they going to start?
What year was that?
Oh.
I went through 95 and then 96.
Okay. Yeah. In fact, in the pre-show, this blew my mind. His company commander in 96 PLCs was a man we all know and love, Lawman.
No. Are you shitting me?
Yeah.
Is that
So
wild? That guy gets around.
So he was there. So that would have been after his tour with the Blues.
Yep. Just left the Blues and he went to Quantico. I guess he was waiting to start. Yeah.
Command and Staff College.
Command and laugh. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Well, probably nobody out PT'd him, I'm sure.
No. Repeat and I were talking about it. If you were on the backside of the 12-mile hump, you were running, and then you were stopping, and then you were running. Because I don't know what his pace was, but it was pretty much running for him up there.
Yeah,
that accordion. Yeah,
that guy's a machine.
Yeah, he really is. Guy was an animal. So, that was so funny. When you said that, I was like, no way. Oh, yeah. So, we all love my man here.
What a small world. Oh, that's awesome. Uh-oh.
So you finished, went back to, did you do it between your junior and senior year and then go back? Or did you get commissioned right out of PLC senior?
Summers before my junior year was junior. Summer before my senior was seniors. And I had the full year to go back to school and graduate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which was good because you have a job waiting for you. A good job at that, right?
Yeah, that makes that last year kind of hard to focus.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Fig Mac.
Yeah.
Fuck it. I got my air contract.
Yeah.
So, okay.
commissioned
So you
in,
show up to TBS commissioned summer of 97, I guess.
Yeah.
And
97.
then
Yep.
how long did you wait to start TBS?
So I
Which
waited
they forgot
3
to tell you
months.
about.
Yeah, I waited 3 months, but I got the ultimate hookup. So my recruiter,
Nice. Okay.
who he washed out of flight school, great guy, still talked about it, wanted to go back and try to do it somehow, said, "Hey, I need somebody to work for me this summer. Would you like a job?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to have a job." And he's like, "All right, well, it's going to be no cost TAD orders." And I said, "Well, can you define that for me?" He's like, "Well, you're going to get your base salary, but that's it. So I recommend you find a really cheap place to live somewhere around Jacksonville." So I went and lived in the BOQ at Cecil Field and paid, I think it was $18 a night to have my own room and just drive into work and go recruiting. And it was centrally located near Gainesville, Tallahassee, and St. Augustine.
Horrible.
So, yeah, really bad, bad time.
Less than
Horrible
600
way to
bucks a
have to
month,
spend your
maid
summer.
service.
Yeah.
Yeah, not to
Horrible.
mention, I had just been commissioned. So the day I check in, the staff sergeant says, "Hey, sir, guess what? You just got your first 2 awards, a muck and a nuck, because our recruiting command just got these. So now I'm just wearing these 2 little awards over here my first day." I felt like I earned them.
Well, yeah.
Participation trophies. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic. Oh,
Yeah.
man.
So I did that for 2.5 to 3 months and then checked into Echo Company 90 in 1997 in August.
Ooh, I was an Echo Company of 87.
Wow.
We got
can't
just
do
a
the-
little gap. Just a
I
little
can't
gap.
do the math, but you're a little bit older than me.
Geezers.
Echo
Well,
97. Nice.
I remember learning about weather patterns at the basic school, and it was after El Nino, which is La Nina, and it was a mild weather pattern to the point where it just rained, and it was 33 degrees. So it never snowed, it just got rain. And during the war, if you remember, about 1/4 to 1/3 of the lieutenants there got hypothermia. I had the onset of it. I was starting to hallucinate, but it was bad to the point where the guy who was in charge of the entire thing, Colonel Robert E. Lee was his real name. He put a Phoenix to the entire war and the exercise because the SBCs, the instructors, were coming down with hypothermia. It just was
guys all
raining.
going down. Crap. Well, that's horrible. Yeah, I guess if you think about it, you'd rather have snow than rain. I mean, rain just soaks you to the bone, and then you're
It
toast.
does. Everything's wet. And an MRE never tasted so good after the end of that war. I think I had seconds.
Have you started crapping yet?
I'm thinking about it.
28 years later,
Specifically
MRE
thinking
will
about
stop
doing that.
you up.
And the cheese and the crackers were good for that too.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No dysentery in the field. No, man. No shit. All right. Anything interesting or memorable at the basic school?
Not really. I mean, I actually had a decent time there because you got to fire some nice hardware. You got to do the call for failure and see some Harriers and Hornets roll in and drop some dumb bombs. Other than the weather, I enjoyed it. The land nav was fun. I got to do that a couple times. And I thought overall we had a pretty good company. And specifically, I lived on base. So there were 4 or 5 of the guys that were attached to my room that lived off of base. So in the mornings, when somebody said be there at 7 o'clock, eventually got rolled back to 5:30 because everybody subtract 15 minutes off of that. They all had to be in my room early, and I was just waking up. But at the end of the day, when you had to wait to be secured, we're talking 45 minutes, an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, where I got to be in my room. We got to order pizza and drink beer, and they were just waiting to get released so they could go back
So
off.
they could go drive home to mama.
Yeah.
That was my life. I was married at TBS. So, yeah. Oh, man. All right. So, wandered down to flight school?
Yeah. Well, there
How
was a
was that?
break. Right before we got to flight school, one of the air officers said, "Hey, does anybody want to go down to Cecil Field and be stashed as a schedule writer for VFA 106? Because there was a several-month wait before you started flight school." And my roommate from college and I, who were in the same TBS company together, said, "Yeah, we'll do it." So we got orders down there this time, and we got per diem, surprisingly for the Marine Corps. And once again, stayed on base, and we got to write the sim schedule for VFA 106. And
That's the RAG. That's the RAG squadron, yeah?
RAG, yeah. RAG FRS, yeah.
Yeah.
So we
Okay.
got to pencil ourselves into all the backseat flights, which was really nice. It was a big
Nice.
motivator before we went to flight school.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
got
fantastic.
I got to learn how to write Ellis, so speak. For your listeners who don't know, landing signal officer is a very cryptic way to grade people's passes on the back of the boat. They just taught me how to do it, so I go up to the shack with them nighttime and got to help them wave. Didn't know what I was writing. I'm sure I messed up some of their passes and switched people around, but it was still fun.
Gave everybody no grades and
Yeah. Wave off, go around. Yeah, so and then we checked into Pensacola, standard stuff, API. And we went to, when I say we, there was a cohort of me and a couple friends of mine from the basic school. We all ended up going to Corpus because the gouge was, hey, go to Corpus if you want to do well. You don't want to deal with the course rules
get
and everything
away
else.
from NAMI and get away from the course rules. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. I did that. I was a VT-27 boomer.
Yeah, I was VT-28, the Love Squadron.
Okay. Yeah. I just found out, I guess, a few shows ago that they had a second primary squadron down there. So when I was down there, it was VT-27 was it. So
Yeah. We were the VT-28, the Rangers. And maybe
Okay.
because we were adjacent to 27, and I'll agree with this, I think the instructors were just nicer in 28. I think overall they were.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I had some good guys. My on-wing was a Marine 53 driver, and his dad was a retired Navy admiral. Good guy.
Wow.
And he wound up retiring from my company about 3 or 4 years ago. So real good guy. I've tried to keep in touch with him.
Yeah. My on-wing was a Marine Major C-130 pilot. And he says, all right, you and I are going to be flying together for the next couple of weeks. What do you want to do? And I was truly open-minded. I was like, hey, I just want to make it through this program. I don't really care. I got to ride in some 53s and 46s in Quantico. And he says, wow, that's bullshit. What do you really want to do? And I said, I don't know. I like F-18s. I was stashed, blah, 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 blah. So he says, all right, well, in the C-130 community, if you want to live the life, that's where you want to go because you can take your golf bags with you. And while all the Hornets and the Harriers are off getting gas off Kenya, we're staying in 5-star hotels. He explained the whole thing to me. And I said, well, sir, I don't even golf. So I'm going to have to go with the other option. He's all right, well, I'll train you the best I can. And he did. He really worked with me, landing patterns, happles and lapples. And by the time I got kicked off from being his on wing, off wing, I was ready for the rest of the instructors.
Nice.
Very cool.
He did you a solid.
He did. At
At
the time, it felt like hazing, but in retrospect, he was doing what I asked him to do.
He was hooking you
Getting
up,
to
right?
speed. Very cool. Yeah,
Good.
I hadn't thought of the word happle or lapple in probably 30 years, and all of a sudden I was having a conversation with Sticks because he lives near me, and he starts rattling off the whole fucking procedure. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. Under check feather, look, come on. Yeah.
Crew, canopy, cords, harness, crouch, dive, D-ring. That's all I remember about the T-34.
Hasn't
That was
changed.
the bailout. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, one of the guys who were roommate in college, the basic school, OCS, all of that, said, hey, and he was married. He said, hey, I'm going to teach myself how to juggle because I've heard that if you can recite your emergency procedures and you can juggle at the same time, you can probably fly an airplane. And I said, well, if you're going to do that, I guess I better do that too. So sure enough, started one ball, which is really easy, 2 balls. I eventually got it down to 3 balls, no more after that, where I would recite the T-34 Charlie procedures. I don't know how much it helped, but I think if anything, it just teaches you to move your hands while you're talking and doing things.
And thinking through it, yeah.
Yeah.
I always taught, my daughter's about to graduate from Riddle, but I always said, here's what you have to do. Take a tennis ball and walk around the coffee table, bouncing the tennis ball while you recite the emergency procedures. You need to be able to be doing other things and concentrate on that whilst coming out with those words and letting them flow and be natural. So, yeah, that's a big deal.
Because let's be honest, every flight in flight school is stressful. It's like taking a final exam every time you step into that cockpit.
Yes, it is. And then and then EPs, man. You're tested on every one of them. So
know your EPs, make a mistake, recover from it. And that was the problem with some of the guys I was friends with. They hadn't flown like me, and they were so hard on themselves. they would have a bad flight and they would come back and we'd meet at the bar, at the O Club, and they just would say, I just don't know if I'm cut out for this. Like, of course you are. Come on. Like,
Right.
we are. We're in Corpus Christi. We're flying T-34s. We're all cut out for this.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So, all right. Well, you down to down there. Obviously, you got jets. Anything interesting happen in primary or Kingsville the next adventure that awaited?
I threw up on my solo form flight. So I'm
Ooh.
by myself. I don't know. Maybe it was a stomach bug, but you basically passed, right? This is one of the last flights you do.
Yeah.
And I was going out with my form partner, and we were doing well. We were doing extremely well. And we get airborne. Everything's nice and slow. We get out to the working area, and I just say, hang on, I'm going to take loose cruise. And I just throw up in the puke bag that I'd never used up to that point. And then never threw up again.
Wow. Yeah,
That was it.
That's something weird there that there's no way that if you hadn't thrown up to that point, I got to think that was a stomach bug because
Maybe.
yeah.
Maybe I was a little hard on myself. Maybe I'm not a very good form flyer. That was it. I was just all over the place with the stick and the rudders. And...
No, I just it's one of the things I feel really blessed. Never been airsick in my life. I still remember being in a vertical scissors in the backseat of a A4 when I was waiting to start the A4 syllabus at Beeville. And I was in the Squadron XO's back seat, and we're inverted in a vertical scissors coming down on a guy, and I key the ICS. I go, this is awesome. And we get back and land. He goes, when you keyed that ICS, I thought you were going to call and knock it off, and you were puking. And like, no way, man. That was fantastic. So the only motion sickness I've ever got is in the simulator of a large airplane when the visuals doesn't match the motion, and then my stomach goes, hey, whoa.
Yeah.
And I learned to just close my eyes and look down while they do the reset. So
Yes. Yep.
that's the only thing that screws me up, for positive, negative G's, all that shit. That was great.
Yes. Yep.
Oh, wow. So, all right. So down to, I mentioned, I spoiled the surprise. So you're down to Kingsville for advanced. And then Fig, how much ahead of him did you leave? You left in 97, didn't you?
I left in May of 96.
96. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
he taught
so-
down there. Yeah.
I got there in 99, and I was in the TS program, if you're familiar with that. So no T2 time. You just show up from T-34s. It's about a year
Yep.
syllabus. And we're really motivated. Like, oh, man, we get to go in this jet and fly it. And then they've revealed the secret. Like, no. You're going to do about 20 simulators. And then if you pass those, you're going to sit in the actual airplane. And then you're going to be in the back, and you're going to be under a shroud, and you're not going to see anything, which definitely the wax on, wax off. I didn't know why they were doing it at the time, but if you can fly instruments, you can definitely go out and do fans.
Right. Yeah. Fair
Yeah.
enough. And won't you get lost with the jet?
Weird.
And
Right.
to that point, so we started with 5. We only winged myself and another person. We had an attrition rate of 60% just because it was such a tough syllabus coming right from the T-34 right into the T-45.
Wow. That is a high attrition rate. Holy shit.
Yeah. And we
There was
were,
only 6 in your
Go ahead.
class to start with?
there were
That seems
5.
really small.
Yeah.
That seems
There were
small.
5 of us. Yeah. And it was a function of the TS program. So we did have a lot of advanced students there that came from T2s. So they went to T2s in Meridian and then had to PCS all the way to Kingsville and then start a new syllabus. But they were more advanced. They'd flown a jet before. They understood the program, whereas we were just coming up from Corpus with no
Out of
prep time.
T-34s.
Yeah, we had about 2 weeks from the time we selected to the time we started instrument ground school. And another reason why the attrition rate was so high is generally before that, you went to Kingsville and you had about 5, 6, 7, 8 months off. So what do people do? There's nothing else to do. And you would sit in the simulator and get really good at BI1 and then BI2 and BI3. The first time we did BI was the first time we were doing it for grades in the sim. And I don't know how I made it through the first couple weeks. I just felt like I was going to crash the plane every time I took it off a freeze.
Hey, Yort, we know what BI means, but could you define
Oh,
BI?
yeah. That's right.
Yeah. So that's basic instruments. And generally in T-34s, when you start off, you're going to go fly the airplane first for motivation, and then you're going to come back. And you're going to get in the simulator, and you're going to do BI, basic instruments 1, 2, 3, 4. It's kind of flip-flopped in the jet world where you start off in BIs, and then you do some RIs, and then you actually go fly the airplane.
Yeah. So basic instruments, radio instruments, right? All right.
Yeah, radio instruments.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So no GPS stuff. So
Nope.
okay. Yeah. Very cool. When does T-45 even have GPS, GNS, INS?
So the answer is back then, no.
Okay.
The
I think the
T-45A. Yep.
I think the C model had that. Yeah.
Okay.
I was one of the initial cadre guys for the airplane that you flew there, Yort.
Yeah. That was
It was pretty
of steam
basic.
gauges. Yeah, very basic. And if you remember how much the VSI lagged vertical
really.
speed indicator?
Yeah.
You would land, and then 5 or 6 seconds later, it would still show 600 feet in a descent until it slowly came up, which was really good to take the boat when you're coming off the 180 and you're trying to time your instrument
Sure.
speed.
Yeah.
Oh man, in an underpowered airplane, but
Hey,
you got to
that
go to the
was,
carrier in it first,
That was
right?
me in that picture, by the way.
Yeah, is that right?
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh shit! All right,
Yeah.
very cool. So Sticks just had a T-45 climbing up through the clouds. And,
Yeah.
there.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah, King's old tail. Bravo.
Yep.
So
That's it.
We did a bunch of those photo shoots for McDonnell Douglas, and it was kind of crazy. Anyway,
Nice.
anyhow, so you guys, if I remember right, that's the syllabus that you guys did. Did you go to the boat twice?
No, I should have gone to the boat twice. So I made it all the way through flight school and I never got it down. I probably should have. Like I said, in retrospect, I was so horrible in the simulator that I don't know if they just took sympathy on me, or they're like, hey, this guy's TS. It's lucky he even found where the sim building is, or you can strap into the sim. I never got it down. And I really like the second phase of training, more the tactical stuff.
Sure,
So
right.
when
Yeah.
we're doing FCLPs, I'm thinking, oh man, I'm doing well and I really enjoy this. How hard could it be? How hard could the boat be? They put us in this simulator that's a really good sim, by the way. And we have to have, as TS guys, we had to have 500 looks at the ball. So the
Wow.
frontal ends that, for your listeners that don't know, it's a simulated carrier on the runway that you practice landing on before you actually go to the boat. And for half of those, you have dedicated LSO. And it's like, oh, I can make corrections. I know what I'm doing. So we go to Pensacola, and it's the USS Enterprise. It's the biggest ship to ever pull into Pensacola Harbor at the time. And this is 2000. So we get out there, and the weather's really bad. I mean, a lot of thunderstorms. We're delayed. And then we're going, and now we're delayed. So
Yeah.
we're going back to the
I remember
BQ.
those days.
Yeah, you're just, I'm ready to
The
go.
worst part
Come
of
on.
CQ was interminable waiting. Oh, man.
Yes, because they have to have good weather for two reasons. One, out of the boat, and then two, for you to come back potentially as a solo at the field, which they didn't have. If you remember the Pensacola storms that they would have in the summertime, they just would soak that part of the world. So we finally go, and we take off. It's a 4-ship, and I believe I'm dash 4. And we can see the boat, and like we're in holding, we're just marshaling right above it. Oh, there it is! Look at that big wake! Oh my God, they're making their own way through. So there's going to be the burble that they talked about. So we come in, we start calming down, we break, and I give it what they recommended and then some in terms of an interval. Like I don't want to eat the guy in front of me up. So you come to the 180, and remember there's that specific call you had to make just to verify that you're on speed and your AOA is on there and your AOA is not stuck. So it's an instrument turn, like I talked about. You come off the 180, which is the perch or the beam for your civilian listeners, and you are just staring at those gauges. And it's about 100 to 200 feet on the VSI, which that laggy VSI I told you about, it's pretty much a guess. So you're coming around, and I'm disciplined. Like, yeah, I'm a Marine. I'm disciplined. I'm not scared. So you come around to the 90, which is 90 degrees of turn left. And they say, hey, just take a peek. Just take a little peek to see what you got. Whoa, looks good to me. So I come back in, I start rolling out, and Paddles comes up and says, whatever my side number was, 20 whatever, go around starboard side. And the first thing I thought was, what is starboard? Port, starboard. Is it my starboard side? Do I put the boat on my starboard side, or do I go up the boat's starboard side?
Hadn't gotten that call before.
And I'd never heard of it. And
Yeah.
as I am trying to decide what he's talking about, I take one more peek up. I go, oh, I think he means go up the right side of the ship because I'm overshooting. Not too bad. I still contend the ship was in a turn. I think the ship turned so much to the right, it threw me to the right, and then I had to go around the right side. But whatever, so I go around and I think, all right, I'm not going to do that again. I come back around and I really settled down and I did okay. I wasn't a natural ball flyer, but I qualified the first time I went to the boat.
Okay.
Yeah. What
Nice.
what do you remember about your first hook and your first cat shot?
Probably what everybody remembers, which is the boss coming up and saying, we gotcha, throttle back.
Full power back now,
Yeah.
son.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you can hear that dozens of times when they're training and prepping you, but
Yeah.
nothing, in my opinion, prepares most people for that first landing because it's pretty violent. You can't simulate
Yeah.
that.
Like a
in-
crash.
It is.
Yeah.
I forgot to lock my harness, and I bounced my helmet off the gun side of the T2.
Wow.
You know, and immediately transferred all the sweat that was on my forehead to the visor, which really
Screwed things
kinda-
up there.
yeah. Rung my bell. Yeah.
Yeah, my funny
Yeah.
one was, you got to do 2 touch and goes before they let you drop the hook. And so I do my 2 touch and goes, and okay, lower your hook. Here you come. I come around again, and I actually got a fair pass. But I touch down, I throw the power up, and I'm watching the deck go by, and I'm like, okay, when am I going to stop? When am I going to stop? Then I go off the angle deck and I settle a little bit, and I'm like, well, that was weird. All right. And it turned out it was a hook slap bolter. I got a fair pass for it. It was not, they didn't fault me for it. It was a nice pass. The hook just didn't stay down when I hit. So, but I was like, oh, okay. But I remember sitting there going, well, when am I going to stop? I thought this was going to be, And then I found out on the next one. I grabbed the hook on the next one. I was like, holy shit. That was crazy. So, yeah. And then I sat there. They chained me down. I needed gas. They chained me down. I'm minding my own business. And they taxied somebody else into me. Broke my left broke my left wing lens on the tip tank on the T2. Next thing I knew, out comes a speed tape. They taped me up. I carry a call with a taped up wing.
Nice.
Yeah. So anyway, and then that first shot, what do you remember about that?
It was something they stressed with us. They said, look, you're going to be very excited. You're going to death grip the stick, but whatever you do, keep your feet off of the brakes. They had a problem in 245s with people riding the brakes down.
Oh, yeah.
And unfortunately, it was about a year before we went to the boat. There was somebody that was killed because they went down the catapult stroke, blew both their tires. And at the time they thought, it's safer to bring him back to the ship because we have 5 LSOs, we have 4 wires.
Oh, yeah.
Let's not send him to Jacksonville. And he comes in, they showed us this video in our training. He comes in, he misses the 4 wire, the last wire by inches, and swerves and rotates and comes off of the angle carrier deck and rotates violently to the right and ejects into the side of the ship.
Yeah.
I know this is a happy podcast. I only bring that up.
Well, we talk about that shit sometimes, and it's horrible.
Yeah.
When stuff like that happens, it's just heartbreaking. But
And they showed us that entire video and all the calls and what happened to say, hey guys, this is a very dangerous business. It's been fun living in Kingsville, but when we go to the boat, the reason why we tell you to do these certain things is because people literally die when they don't do what they're told. It's like, roger that. Okay.
yeah, there's that old saying, right? That NATOPS manuals are written in blood.
Written in blood, yeah.
Yeah. So, that's
Did
horrible
I see
to hear.
in the
Yeah.
notes that you lived on base in Kingsburg?
Yeah.
So you lived in the BOQ?
So we had to. You
What?
probably remember the old BOQ. There was an old
Yes.
BOQ, there was a decrepit. For the Navy to get the funding to justify to build a new BOQ, they had to guarantee a certain level of occupancy. And it
So
just
you
so
were
happened.
voluntold.
Yeah, it's just so happened I was in the very first class of single pilots to have to live on base, which when we first got there, it was kind of boring. There was only half a dozen of us. But over the next year, it built and it got to the point where it was, I don't know, it was like a fraternity
Quite the
house, 'cause
ruckus.
there was always something
Okay.
going on. Yeah.
Okay.
By the time I left, it was like, wow, this is actually a really fun place because virtually every room is taken. And there's always something going on because everyone who
Sure.
lives there is single. And you could drive up to Corpus. You could go out in town. You could stay at the BOQ and still have a pretty good time on the weekends.
Nice.
Fantastic. Or you could take all your furniture out on the lawn and set it on fire. Oh, no, that was Iwakuni.
Yeah, they still had they had the winging parties, and the pool was right there, if you remember. And those were always fun.
Well, how about that?
Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. So, and then, so you get your, well, let me ask this. Anything, aside from that carrier qual, anything exciting happen in flight school? You ever tickle the handle or get close or anything like, ooh, shit, that was different than I expected? No.
It's something you always prepare for, but I really enjoy the Webstets. You go out to El Centro and you sling the Blue Death, where your listeners know they're about 25-pound bombs you throw off and they make a little smoke. So doing that and doing the simulated strafing patterns was really fun. Low to the ground, the low levels. I think the most fun I had was on a det where we had to do a 3-plane low level. They called it something else in Meridian, but you go out there and you do a low level with your partner, and you simulate doing Rajas and Tajas, and you're rolling in, and it's all obviously
it's like an armed reconnaissance.
Yeah, but it was the other guy that I got winged with. So we're a class of 2 now. The other 3 people have been attrited. So they sent us out there early. We had 2 to 2.5 weeks to do 3 flights. So we spent a lot of time playing video games, unfortunately, because we're in El Centro. We spent a lot of time in Mexicali, which, believe it or not, they have good restaurants in Mexicali.
Oh, yeah.
Probably wouldn't want to go there now, but at the time, in 2000, it was probably relatively safe. And we came back and just got integrated with another class. So there was just 2 of us. They were like, well, we're just going to make you into your own class. I can't think of anything that was, and I had to even go through my logbook to find anything that was worthy of even talking on your podcast. Like, no, I think I just was a Mark 1 Mod 0 student Naval Aviator most of the time I went
There
through.
you go. All right. Well, that's cool. That's nothing wrong with that, man. Get through flight school and go hit the fleet.
Yeah.
Get your wings so you can go out and learn.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, what was selection like, and what time frame was that?
So this was May to June timeframe of 2000, and if you remember, the Harriers were red striped. So if you got Harriers,
red striped.
If you were going to get Harriers, you were going to be a Sir Grad most likely. They just didn't have a place for you to go.
Okay.
But there was also a big rumor that, hey, Marine Prowlers are going to go back to the boat. So if you do well at the boat, as a Marine, there's a very good chance you're going to be going to Prowlers. And I thought the Prowler was a great aircraft. Loud, had a really nice mission, very esoteric mission that a lot of people knew about. But I didn't do well at the boat. I didn't do great. I didn't do bad, but my friends did really well at the boat.
I don't want to fly queers.
Yeah. Somewhere in the back of my head, I'm like, well, I wouldn't mind flying the Harrier. And the instructors that are here in Kingsville are great guys that came from that community. But after being stashed at VFA 106 twice, I thought, man, if it's available, I wouldn't mind going back to that squadron for the RAG. So,
Nice.
I was not going to brag, but out of 2 people, I was at the top of my class. No big deal. And
50-50
Top
odds,
50%,
baby.
man. Nice job. Well,
thank you. So, and the timing worked out, like I said, for other variables in and out of my control, that if you wanted to go fly and you wanted to go to 106, which they had a hard time getting Marines to go to, then you could go there. So I went there and I got stashed for 6 months. So now I'm a winged aviator as first lieutenant, living in Virginia Beach with nothing to do except check in with Matzig every once in a while to let them know I'm still alive.
Whether you needed to or not. Love it.
Making more money than I ever thought I would make.
right.
To be able to do what I got to do. Yeah.
Right. That's rough. I'm sorry to hear that. Had to be
Yeah.
in Virginia Beach and probably living
Yeah.
on the beach, right? At
Living on the
BOQ.
beach on 66th Street on the beach, and some 06 built his retirement house. And while he was still active duty, he grabbed a couple of us and just said, "Hey, would you guys like to take care of my house and live here?" Of course, sir. We'd love to live there.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. I still drive by every once in a while and think, it's right there on the water. Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Probably can't talk about what happened at that house. Statute of limitations.
I'd rather
That's
not.
okay.
No.
I'm going to live vicariously through my imagination right now. That's awesome.
Right
All
on.
right. So, any memorable things happened to you at the RAG that you can you want to disclose?
Yeah. Most of it was at the Yo Club.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah. I will say, when I was waiting to start the RAG, and this is when the Tomcat guys owned the BOQ there. I mean, they had their own band. If they were in town, they were playing games with their boards, which was new to me. And there was a lot of them because 2 seats. I remember listening to a CO of one of the squadrons. I want to say it was a swordsman. That was pretty new there. And he's holding court, and everyone's listening to him, whether they want to or not. And he says, "Hey guys, if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right." And that kind of stuck with me. It's like right before I start the RAG. And I think, yeah, I could go through life like that. Why not?
Yeah.
So I got to, over the next 6 months, you're going to go through ground school when you start the RAG. I just turned all the boxes green. So when I officially started, I had a couple weeks off because I'd already done the ground school. And then I got to go do some flights, owies, all pretty straightforward. I thought the simulators and the simulator guys did some really good training there. I really enjoyed my first solo because I think it was our 5th one. So you're dueled up through FAM 1 through 4. And on your 5th one, you get to go fly it by yourself. And it was the first time I got to pre-flight an airplane that was built for one person. And, I shit you negative. I get up the ladder and I get vertigo because every time up until then, I've always pre-flighted an airplane with 2 cockpits. So my eyes are telling me something. My mind is telling me something. And I had to grab onto the ladder because I really thought I took a misstep. So I get to go fly this thing. It's fun. I don't think I didn't get flight violated. I don't believe on that one. And then just went through the syllabus. I really enjoyed the fighter Webstead back in El Centro. Now we're dropping live bombs, 500 pounders, nothing major, but just the fact that you got to blow things up was nice.
Right.
I will say I was underwhelmed at the size of the explosion. Now, granted, our roll-in heights, since we're new guys, are pretty high and we're coming off pretty high. I didn't think it was going to be like the Death Star blowing up, but I didn't think it was going to be like a little splash on the ground. But little do I know that they were trying to save us from ourselves. And there's obviously some poor guy down there on a T-34 being the tractor that doesn't want to get hit either. So that's obviously important too.
Yeah.
One of my classmates I talk to every once in a while, obviously not going to name his name. We're doing the Circle of the Wagons, and they had a very strict policy that you did not arm up until you were cleared hot. Even if you had a solution, you didn't arm up until you were cleared hot. And that meant pretty much no matter what, you're not going to drop a bomb, right? So he drops his first 2. He's like, I'm getting pretty good at this. And he goes and he arms up and he's rolling in and he just thinks, I've got the solution. I know where the T-34 is. And he pickles one and the T-34 screams, abort, 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 not knowing that he'd already dropped a bomb.
Oh,
and my buddy comes over the radio and he says, it's too late. I already dropped. He actually thumped the tractor. And it wasn't bad. I don't think there was shrapnel, but it was enough to get him a certain color of a sheet in his training jacket.
Oh,
I remember going to the bar that night with him, and he's just despondent. He's like, "Oh, I don't know what else I'm gonna do, and this doesn't work out for me. Who knows what I'm gonna do in the Marine Corps? What's the Marine Corps gonna do for me? And are they gonna pull my wings?" And we just said, "Hey, you made a mistake. You're gonna get debriefed on it. Of course, go back and take it like a man. Don't dodge any punches. Take them right in the face, and
All right.
be a good pilot for it." Which you did.
Don't do it again.
Yeah.
So, did the He mentioned it last night, and I didn't realize this to be true. Did the Hornet not beep when you pickled? Did it not send a tone?
Not the ones we were flying. I think maybe later software they did.
Oh, okay.
You would definitely get a time marker when something came off.
So good. Well, because the Harrier would broadcast a tone on the radio that you were on, the frequency you were on, and you would hear it in your own headset too. Because I still remember we had auto on, I don't know, show 3 or 4, something like that. And I still remember being on the range in the early days, my first gun squadron, and Otto's down there, and I go, beep. He goes, cleared hot. Oops.
That all came out.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, holy shit. Yeah, I know what it's like to drop before you're allowed to. It's like, oh man, I just got lucky. I didn't have to get debriefed on that beyond, hey, you need to hear the words first.
Yes. And of course, it's something that they stressed in the brief, but we're so excited we're going to drop live. Like, sure. And I'm sure it's something they stressed even more on follow-on classes after us. And I'll be told the story about my buddy who thumped the tracker.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. Because nobody got hurt. That's fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember
nobody got hurt.
looking over my shoulder at my first 500 pounder and going, oh, that's pretty cool. It's certainly more impressive than the 25-pound smoke charge you get out of the Mark 76.
Yeah.
So,
man. So,
I feel like we were.
yeah,
I feel
we
like
finished.
Go ahead, man.
Good. No, I was
No.
just saying, we just finished up there, and I remember thinking, this is what being a Marine is so great about, because one day, and this is peacetime, right? This is early 2001. Maybe one day we're going to be doing this in combat. Maybe not, but maybe we will. And we finish up in El Centro, and we go back, and the things we got to do out there, the low levels, 200 feet, 500 plus knots, and rolling in and dropping. It was, once again, I'll say this, they were paying us to do it.
Right? I mean, is that the coolest thing or what? I still remember driving around out west and going, holy shit, I used to be able to cross this valley in about 45 seconds, not 2 hours.
Yeah.
So, oh, man. Very cool. All right. So you finish the rag. Where'd you go after that? Were you East Coast, West Coast?
Yeah, so finish the rag. I got one more story to tell, one follow on. So then we do fighter weps down in Key West. My first time to be in Key West.
Okay.
I grew up in Florida, the Panhandle, Destin, Fort Walton Beach, University of Florida. I'd never been to Key West. So we were a Marine heavy class. There were about 5 of us. We get down there, we're going through the syllabus, the air-to-air stuff. And it was very fun, very challenging. But we rented a boat on one of the weekends that we had off. I'd never captained a boat before. And we go to MWR, and I take some tests, and somehow I pass it. So we're all out there. And I don't think we scraped the prop too many times. Just barely nicked it. But I remember thinking, I was telling the guys, I said, hey, I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'd like to move down here someday. And they said, shut up. My call sign was Body at the time. Shut up, Body. There's no Marines down here. You can't do it. Like, all right, sorry, guys. So finished up, went to the boat. Went to the boat the second time in F-18s. Once again, apparently my night boarding rate wasn't that great. It has to be around 60%, and I think mine was around 50%. But I was also thinking, well, Marines generally don't go to the boat, so it doesn't really matter.
Right.
So I got another look at it. Yeah, and I'm glad I did. I got another look at the boat because I ended up being an LSO. And like I said, I wasn't a natural ball flyer. I was a blue collar ball flyer, which meant I had to work really hard to be above average.
Yeah.
And if somebody was struggling behind the boat, I was able to talk to them because I knew what they were going through. Whereas, some of the guys I knew that were top 10 ball flyers all the way down their shoulder. Like, what do you do? Like, I just fly meatball like a male attack, and that's it. Like, well, but how do you do? It's like, I just do these 3 things, and that's great. So yeah, that was one of those times in your life where you realized you weren't a natural at something, but you worked hard to do it, and that's going to pay dividends down the road for other people.
And you could help someone else. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Which boat?
So that was when I qualified in the rag, it was the Roosevelt. And then I cruised on the USS Enterprise twice.
Oh, nice. All right.
Yeah. The mobile Chernobyl.
Love it. The mobile Chernobyl. That may be a show title.
Well, it had, it was the first nuclear carrier they built. They built actually a nuclear battleship, and they used so much money on this thing that the next two carriers were conventional, 66 and 67. So America and then the JFK. And not to mention, when they built this thing, when they laid the keel in 59, they didn't, we don't know what we're doing. Let's put 8 reactors on this. So each screw had 2 reactors. Every carrier they've built since then has 2 reactors. So it had a lot of excess power.
Nice.
Wow.
Well, do some water skiing behind that thing, man.
Yeah. We were dragging a screw. They should have motor on something. We're dragging a screw and we're still getting 35 knots in the water.
Wow.
Just
Damn.
that much power they could get from those motors.
That's impressive.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, we've been going over 50 minutes here, so we probably ought to take just a moment to thank the fine folks who make this show possible, and then come back and talk some more really cool. These are cool stories, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. So there I was, flying high, thinking my retirement was locked in, running smooth, no adjustments needed. Then it hit me. Retirement planning isn't something you can just put on autopilot. You can't just set it and hope for the best. If you're not actively steering, you could be drifting off course without even realizing it. That's why pilots who get it turn to HSI Wealth Strategies. These guys aren't your typical financial advisors. They're pilots. Military, airline, guard, civil. They've sat where you're sitting. They understand the unique financial landscape pilots face, from high-earning years to the minefield of taxes and inflation waiting downrange. And here's the kicker. On average, they're saving pilots $1 million or more just by making smart course corrections. The earlier you start working with them, the more opportunities they have to reduce your lifetime tax burden and keep more of your hard-earned money where it belongs. But don't worry, even if you're closer to your Centrum Silver years, they have the expertise to help make the most of your approach to retirement. Now, let me ask you something. If your airplane was leaking fuel mid-flight, would you ignore it and hope you still had enough to make it to your destination? Of course not. You'd act immediately. Your retirement is no different. If you're not taking control now, you could be watching your hard-earned money evaporate through unnecessary taxes and inefficient planning. And listen, we all know the classic joke. How does a pilot make $1 million? Well, he starts with $2 million and manages it himself for 6 months. Funny? Yes, but humor has truth to it, and this one is painfully true. So here's your wake-up call. This is your moment right now. You have a choice. You can keep hoping your retirement lands smoothly, or you can take action and get a real strategy from people who know exactly what it takes to make it work for pilots. Call Robbie Walling at 214-538-7030. That's 214-JET-7030. Or email robert.walling@nm.com. That's robert.walling, WALLING, at novembermike.com. Because when it comes to your financial future, you only get one final approach, and there are no go-arounds. HSI Wealth Strategies. Pilots guiding pilots to a smooth landing in retirement. So, thank you, Robbie. Appreciate that. HSI Wealth Strategies, to quote Fig, don't be a moron. Call Robbie Walling.
Right.
Let him help you out. Good stuff there. So, all right. All right. I got in the notes here. I think I'm out of order here. 6-month vacation with the Tomcat RAG students.
Yeah, that was what I was waiting to start the RAG. As you know.
Okay. Oh yeah.
And I love the Tomcat guys. It's a nice airplane. They weren't doing very well in maintenance. So while they are in the RAG and they're supposed to be studying, they're not really doing much. As a matter of fact, one of my really good friends, the first 10 times he tried to get airborne and it was a Tomcat A.
Wow.
He got airborne 2 or 3 times. So he would go a week or 2 without flying, which meant he had a lot of free time off, which meant we got to go to nice places like the Tuna. That was good. There's a nice little bar up there. It was kind of the de facto club. And then on South Virginia Beach. So a lot of those guys, you got a front seat and the back seat. What they told me was, if you're a front seater, you just worry about BFM and landing on the boat. If you're in the back seat, you just worry about working the radar. And there wasn't a lot to study, but it was a handful of an airplane to fly, without a doubt.
No kidding. Oh, man. So, yeah. Plus, not to mention, it's already a handful, and now you're rusty because you're only flying 30% of the time.
Yeah. I think of those 3 times he got airborne, he declared emergency on at least 1, maybe 2 of those. Hydraulic leaks or, what have you.
Yeah, only the finest in 60s technology still going after it in the early 2000s, right?
Yeah.
Oh, man. But a cool bird. I mean, it did what it did. Holy smokes.
Yeah.
The Marines bought them and then said, no, we're not going to use it. And they had 1 squadron up and running. Yeah.
And, great air-to-air, but when they put the lantern pod on that, it really changed how the air wing did air-to-ground. We had this big airplane that could carry a lot of gas and a lot of bombs. The best targeting pod at the time to go out and do whatever they needed to do.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, let's get in some of your first deployment or your first gun squadron and deployment. All that cool stuff. Yeah, man. What was that like?
So
how quickly did you deploy after you hit the?
It was real fast. It was about 2 years after I got there. So I checked in. I got to the MAG on September the 20th of 2001. Right? Who knew what we were going to be doing? And they said, "Hey, don't check in yet. Check in on the new fiscal year." And I said, "Why?" I was like, "Trust us, because if you check in on the next fiscal year, you might get an extra year added on to your time here in Buford." And I went, "That's preposterous. Who thinks like that?" Well, that's what happened. So when I checked in on October the 1st, the next fiscal year, I didn't, for paper purposes, check in on the previous fiscal year, which got me an extra year in Buford. It was it worked out pretty nice. Who thinks like that, right?
Right.
Okay, well, hold on.
Your government at work.
I'm a little concerned about what. So that was the 20th. They said don't check in until the 1st.
Yeah.
So you had 11 days. Did you take leave or what? What the hell?
I bought a house in Buford and I hung out in my house and got it ready and went downtown and did all the things that a single Marine in Buford would do. And the 3 of us checked in on the 1st, right? So we get there. And just so they can stamp our orders, and they say, "Hey guys, we got 3 slots for you. 2 slots are going to go to a boat squadron that's not deploying in 2 years potentially, and then another slot is for one of the other guys who's going to potentially deploy in the next couple months." And we all wanted to deploy, but since I had to go to the boat twice, I thought, I'm much better at landing on the boat now. I wouldn't mind going to a boat squadron. So that's what I put my hands for, and that's what I got. But to answer your question, sorry?
What squadron?
Oh, it was VMFA 312, the world famous checkerboards. You may have heard of them.
There you go. Hey, Fig, can you do me a favor and check and make sure you've got the right mic set up as your input? You sound like you're down in a tin can. So it's hard to hear you. So anyway, so you're at the checkerboards.
Yeah, we're at the checkerboards, and the CEO at the time was a test pilot, Top Gun, WTI, very lean forward. He didn't know where we were going to be. He said, "Hey, we're scheduled to go to the boat on this date. However, who knows what's going to happen in Afghanistan?" And this is long before OIF kicked off. So he wanted me and the other new guy to be very tactically proficient, and he made sure that happened. Yeah, he flew us a lot. He'd take himself off the flight schedule just to put us on the flight schedule and work maintenance really hard to make sure we'd have jets. The other flip side of the problem we ran into was, since our original jets about a month prior were swapped because they were timed out, they couldn't go to the boat anymore, we had old A's who had never been to the boat. These jets would repeat their entire career. So older airplanes that could go to the boat, but they had to be configured and they had to be brought up to the A+ standard, which was about a year to a year and a half process for that to happen.
Holy shit. Where'd they do that? They didn't do that at Cherry Point, did they? Where was the NARF for that? Or NADEP?
They would do it either in Jacksonville or in San Diego. I don't know specifically because we slowly, over the next 2 years, we get these jets back. So we could drop JDAM and JSOW and AMRAM. So they had a lot of these.
You got to define those, man. People don't know what those are.
Yeah. JDAM is a Joint Direct Attack Munition. It's basically a kit that you put on a bomb. It's a little strap-on, so to speak, and it comes off, and it's got highly refined IMU and a GPS, so it can find its target. So it's a smart weapon that doesn't need a laser. And in the late 90s, it was fairly new, if you remember. Yeah. But it became the gold standard for those combat operations because it was very accurate and you could drop it through an undercast. So you didn't even to see your target. As long as you had the coordinates, whether they were pre-planned or you could get them from somebody on the ground, 99 times out of 100, the bomb was going to go where it was supposed to go. Very accurate.
Put it right in a window or down a chimney, man.
Yeah. Very close. Very close.
Awesome. Okay. And then the AMRAM.
Yep. And then the AMRAM. So my first flight, I get in there, and this is a couple days after we checked in, and I was so used to rocking on the weapon selector switch to select AMRAM. I was like, is this thing even broken? And they said, yeah, we don't have those yet. We're going to get those in about a year. So now you're just going to be a sparrow chucker, spear chucker, and heaters and guns, which was pretty fun to be in a squadron and just have those weapons so you could get in close if you were flying around. It was an interesting time, obviously, after September 11th, and we're getting ready for a war that we don't know if we're going to go to or not. And we were going to go do a big NATO exercise in Spain. And the CO let me fly a jet out there, so we're going to get dragged by a KC-10. There's, I think, about 6 or 7 of us. And the Air Force comes in, they brief us, they show us the big map, and they say, hey, here are your alternates, and here's what's going to happen here, and here's your frequencies. So we take off early in the morning. The sun is just coming up, and we get onto the tanker, and we fly up to New York. We get about, 200 miles east of St. John's, and I just had my first meal, and I just used my first piddle pack because it's a pretty long flight. And as soon as I stow that piddle pack away, I get this engine right. Like, who's talking to me? What does this mean? I look down.
We know who she is.
Yeah. Bitchin' Betty or Trailer Park Tammy. I think they renamed her.
I have not heard that one. Oh, that's funny. Because Bitchin' Betty was a real person and she retired a few years ago. But yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's funny.
When they redid the software, it was Trailer Park Tammy. She had a little bit of a nice southern twang.
That's fabulous.
So I translate this to the book reader, the NATOPS reader that's in the Big Bird giving us fuel. And I say, hey, I forgot the number was 54, 53. It's like, he says, is it coming down? I said, well, now it's a 51. Yeah, that's a lower number. So they make the decision to get me and a pretty senior guy to peel off. And it's almost 300 miles back to St. John's. Yeah. And we're Nordo. We can't raise anybody. I'm single engine. I have plenty of gas. And the weather's not great. It's not horrible, but it's not great. I shoot the TACAN down to Men's and land. And I got to spend 2 weeks in St. John's waiting for the C-130 to come up and give me a new engine and do the pros and all that kind of stuff.
That was terrible.
You got to know St. John's a little bit, right?
Well, the whole squadron had to go live in tents in Spain. It was called Dynamic Mix. And to prove that we were expeditionary, they were eating sea rations and living in tents while I'm living in a penthouse of a really nice hotel getting full per diem, which I think was 100 American and 160 Canadian at the time.
You poor bastard.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. How did you survive that, Yort?
Barely. I barely made it. Yeah, barely made it.
Fantabulous. So, man.
Yeah, so that was in May of 2002. We started workups in late 2002. And we only had 3 guys in the squadron that had boat experience, true cyclic ops boat experience. So we did a little bit of an extra workup just so when we chopped to the air wing, we didn't embarrass ourselves too much. And it was fun. We got to go out and just get trap after trap and kind of bring everyone up to speed. And then we cruised. And we cruised on the Enterprise, like I said, and it was a pretty benign combat deployment. We got there, we got on theater about 5 or 6 months after OIF-1 kicked off. And we dropped 7 JDAMs in 6 months. I mean, not a lot going on.
Wow.
Just wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of long missions. We're providing support just in case. But for whatever reason, unlike the guys that I knew in CAG 1 before me that dropped virtually on every mission, on these long missions to Afghanistan, we just weren't a lot of targets, which I guess is good. It was relatively calm in theater, at least over Iraq when we were there.
Where were you flying out of?
We were off the Enterprise. So we were
In the Persian Gulf,
basically
right?
Persian Gulf, Arabian Gulf. They get in fights over that, kind of like we get in fights over our Gulf here.
There you go.
We would just fly up, and our average mission was 4 or 5 hours, and we'd hit the tanker a couple times and just come back. So, yeah.
Okay. Oh, all right. So, was this when you had the Forecastle Follies and that got shut down?
Yeah. So for your viewers, that
we've
don't know
never
what
talked about Forecastle Follies before. Can you tell us what that is before you tell us it got shut down?
So it's a Navy term. Apparently, the forecastle, I think forecastle's the shorter way to say it. It's just a big area in the front that a lot of ships have. Of course, the carrier's got a big one. And when you're not having large operations where everyone's screwing around, the squadrons will all get together and you bring in all of the surface warfare officers and the admiral, and you do skits and you poke fun at yourselves, you poke fun at other people, at each other, anything that happened up to that point. And I remember, so it's our first one, virtually all of us, it's our first one. And it was very entertaining to I believe, a naval aviator. Naval aviator would find it very amusing. However, the admiral at the time, who was a surface warfare officer, did not find it amusing.
I'm guessing he didn't have the sense of humor that was instilled in you at flight school.
No. I mean, he was a very nice guy, but this is all hearsay. Yeah, he calls in the CAG, and I don't know if he dressed him down, but I heard it was an ass chewing. And then the CAG called in all the squadron COs and said, next time we do this, 90% of what you did is going to be verboten. I don't want to see that again. So the next Forecastle Follies we had, one of the squadrons, in lieu of any funny skits, just did a human pyramid and called it good. And that was it. So we didn't want to offend anybody.
Okay. Wow. Oh, that's impressive. So CAG is the Carrier Air Group Commander.
Yep, Carrier Air Group Commander.
Generally a 1-star, right, Admiral?
So the strike group,
sometimes
or
a captain.
Commander, he's the CAG is always an 06.
He's a captain. Okay, Navy captain.
Yeah, the SWO I was talking about, and I think they changed the name. It was Battle Group Commander and the Strike Group Commander. It's generally always a 1-star. Generally, not that you could have a 2-star, but I think it's always a 1-star. Yeah, that was fun. We had 6 port calls in 6 months. I definitely can't complain about that.
No, geez, that's pretty good because you get, was it 45 days at sea? You got a beer or 2 beers.
You got a beer. We had a beer day. I may or may not know somebody who took some of the beer coupons and went into Civic and made a couple copies of those and handed those out. Like I said, it's just a friend of mine.
Outstanding. That's brilliant.
Guys in his squadron had 6, 8, maybe 10 beers. I don't know.
Huh.
Nice.
Weird.
That is strange.
Weird.
Isn't it?
How did that happen? Guys getting off the getting out, putting their helmet bags down and hearing, clink, 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 clink. Yeah. Fragile helmets. Our
squadron CO at the time, quick side story on that, had an interview planned that he was going to call back to Buford and talk to the newspaper. And he imbibed a little bit. I didn't hear the actual interview, but I heard after about 8 beers, it was kind of went off the rails a couple times.
Fantastic. And of course, I can tell you another man that we've already mentioned during the show was very popular because he doesn't drink. So, Lawman. was always, hey, sir, what are you going to do with your beer chits?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So the guys that worked hard for Lawman wound up with an extra beer chit here and there. So
Oh, that's good. And
Yeah,
I'll tell you what,
fantastic.
after 45, 50 days, that beer tastes really, really good.
right. And they're probably serving you Pabst Blue Ribbon or
It, after that long at sea, when I say that long,
It's-
it's not that
yeah.
long. It wasn't that bad.
no, fantastic. So, but 6 port calls in 6
Yeah.
months. That's pretty
6
cool. Where
port
were some
calls
of the
in
port
6
calls?
months. We did Dubai 3 times. Did
Nice.
Bahrain on Christmas. We were in Bahrain on Christmas. That was beautiful, despite a threat that there was against Americans. And then we hit Italy and then Cartagena, Spain on the way home.
Oh,
Yeah, those.
all
Sounds
fantastic. Dubai is one of my favorite cities in the Middle East. I mean,
Yeah.
that place is amazing. So, anything memorable in any of those port calls? You made it back to the ship without getting arrested each time?
Yeah, we had we called
Most
them the
of the time?
Bahrain Five. Yeah, I wasn't in this group, but I was there to witness some of it. The Bahrain Five got called in on Christmas Day in their uniform. I won't say if it was khakis or the other ones that the Navy guys wear, because it would be divulging who it was. They had to go talk to them on Christmas Day because they were caught in a bar 2 nights in a row past, I think it was 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. So you had to be in your hotel room past a certain time.
Okay.
And they had to go talk to them. And then they were senior individuals, i.e. maybe the CO and XO,
Oh,
had to be put on liberty risk for the next 3 port calls. Yeah, that was, I didn't think the Navy did that. I really didn't, but apparently they
Wow.
do.
That's my cohort. That's my other call sign for him. It's Fig and Liberty Risk. Those are his call signs. Just saying.
That's an exaggeration, most likely. Just saying.
That's your
Well,
story. You're stuck with it.
Yeah, Fig, I don't know your story, but these guys were simply in the hotel bar past a time that they weren't supposed to. But in their defense, they had a really good band, and it was right before Christmas. So who blames them?
I don't
Most of
understand.
us do the same thing.
Right? I mean, come on.
I don't understand.
That's
Hey, how did you? What is Yort? How
yeah,
how
we
did
got
that
to get a
come
call
about?
sign
Is
because
that
you
an
said you had a
acronym
different
for
call sign
something?
at first, right?
Yeah. So first one was body because it went with my last name. Since I was the first new guy to check into the squadron, we also did a pilot swap. So on top of that jet swap that I told you about, right
Okay.
before I got there, the MAG CO says, "Hey, 312, 533 pilots, grab your stuff and literally walk across the street and swap squadrons." So when I show up there were a bunch of guys who just come over from 533, just got back from the UDP, and all the original guys in 312 were over in 533. He just wanted to make a more well-rounded F-18 pilot. So they apparently had a Yort in their call sign, or they had a Yort guy named Yort whose first name was Troy, and he did something backwards, and Troy spelled backwards is Yort. And I never got the full story, but the guys from 533 said, "You are the antithesis of Yort." And I said, "Well, should my call sign, since I'm the first new guy, be Troy then?" And we had a couple call sign reviews, and the CO didn't want Yort, and so that was the first new guy. And the first guy, when we finally sat around and talked about it, he finally said, he acquiesced and said, "Okay, body's now Yort." And that was 20 plus years ago. And I've had to explain that lame story ever since. I almost should have done something really dumb on purpose. Just to
That's
change the
okay.
Right?
Hey,
Blow
you know,
some tires, go off the end of the
sometimes
runway.
That's the way it is.
standard stuff.
That's okay.
Can't fight it. Who was it we had, Fig, that seems pretty recently was like, "Oh, that can't be my call sign. Hell no." And he's like, "Yeah, I think it was a Fast Eddie.
It was
Maybe out
Fast
this way."
Eddie.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's
He did the reverse psychology on him.
Yeah.
You know, when somebody says, no, that's dumb. Okay,
You're
that's how
stuck
it's going
with
to
it,
stick.
so.
So
Yeah.
that's what he did.
Yeah.
He did that. No, I don't. That's bad. I can't have that.
Yeah.
Stuck him. Played right
Yeah,
against
so we
them.
get back from cruise, and like I said, relatively uneventful. Not like a lot of the other combat cruises and guys that I know. And the Navy generally does a big drawdown where they say, all right, well, we just got back from our deployment. Let's start saving some money. Let's start paying some other air wings are getting ready to go, the parts, the money they need. But in the summer of 2024, they did something called a summer pulse where they wanted to get, I think it was 6 carriers out at the same time to show the world we could do it. So they really
2004?
did I say 2024? Yeah, 2004.
Yeah.
Yeah, not
okay.
not last year.
Yeah, what's 20 years among friends, man?
Yeah, so the Navy squadron, and the Marines weren't going to play. We said, hey, we've got our own things to do. But the Navy squadron called me and said, hey, Yort, I know you guys aren't going to go, but would you like to go and cruise with us? Because we need an LSO. And I said, well, hang on, let me make some phone calls. And sure enough, the MAG skipper said, hell yeah, you can go. That'd be awesome. So I got attached to VFA 82. And my only job was to be a squadron LSO, and I stood the duty. I didn't have anything else to do. And it was probably the most fun I had on a deployment. It was a really good time.
Was that a normal deployment, like 6 months?
No, it was 2.5 months. It was really short.
Okay.
And the reason why it was fun is because we went to the north part of Scotland just to be ready if something happened. And if you know, in the summertime there's 18, 19-hour days. They couldn't write a night schedule, which meant we all lost our night currency, which means we didn't land on the boat at nighttime for the entire deployment. We did during workups, but after that, we never could. It was fun. It's really
horrible.
Good time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so our standard mission was we take off, and the Omega tanker was there. And Omega is a civilian 707 that gives us gas, right? So there's overhead the ship. They'd always top us off. We would go drop a bomb on some rock somewhere, like somewhere near the Orkney Islands. We would just drop a dumb bomb. We'd watch it blow up. And then we would try to get as far south as we could on the Loch Ness, on this low level they had, before we had to peel back and make our Charlie time. And if you just got back to the ship right when you had to Charlie, which means you're ready to come aboard, then you timed it perfectly. So we would have contests to see how far south on that low level we could get. Yeah, there we go.
Look at that.
Got a picture of the Omega tanker on the YouTube feed.
Dix is working the magic.
Yeah. Oh,
they were, like I
fantastic.
said, they were always happy to top us off. We had more gas than we knew what to do. As a matter of fact, on the way back to the ship, we either had to have our afterburners in or our dumps on, just because we had a max landing weight we could land with. We just had
That is
enough gas.
unheard of in a tactical airplane, having more gas than you need, unless you're on fire.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're on the low level one time, and we're doing awesome. We're at 200 feet. We're doing 600 knots, and then a pair of tornadoes go below us at 50 feet, even faster than we're going. We thought, oh, well, that looks like it's fun too. Huh.
Let's try that. Oh, that's fantastic. So, oh man. So yeah, you only have too much gas when you're on fire, and
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, well, I forgot the rest of that one. Don't get old; it's bad for your memory.
Yeah, the really good thing about that deployment was anytime the skipper wanted something done, he would say, hey, Yort, call so-and-so and just introduce yourself and say you want this. And since I was a captain, everybody on the ship thought I was an 06.
Oh,
So there was a time, I would call down and say, hey, this is Captain, my last name.
This Captain Yort.
Send a couple pizzas up to ready room 1. Like, yes, sir. And they'd be marching up with all these pizzas.
Yeah, right. Yes, aye, Captain.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
That's like
Yeah, that's about right. Navy captain, Marine captain. It's about equal in rank,
Yeah, I agree.
So,
It's
oh,
like
fantastic.
the lieutenant. What was lawman? Lawman said he was the admiral's aide, Lieutenant Savoy.
Savoy, the Lieutenant Savoy incident. Yeah. So we actually have that up as a short on our YouTube feed. Look up the Lieutenant Savoy incident. But yeah, he
This
hosed
could
the
be the
squadron
Captain
CO.
Yort.
Yeah.
Captain Yort incident.
No smoking,
Yeah,
no joking, no screwing around. And lawman, for the rest of this deployment, you are not allowed to touch a telephone.
Oh, man. Can I call him lawman now, or do I still call him sir?
Yeah, no, lawman it is. Yeah, he's retired twice now. He just retired a couple of weeks ago from Delta.
Wow.
And obviously retired Colonel, Marine Corps, and one of the world's great gentlemen. What a fantastic individual.
Yeah. Sitting there getting inspected by him for at OCS was an honor. To have him tell me I had rust on my rifle. It almost felt like it made me a better person.
Right. His stories, particularly from the Arizona Highway Patrol, were off the charts funny. I mean,
yeah,
holy shit. Anyway, yeah. So we've got 6 episodes, folks. If you want another good storyteller, Lawman's got some amazing ones. To include one that was very, very difficult when he talks about bringing Woody back from Iraq after having lost him on a flight they were on together. So,
other than that episode, prepare yourself for a core workout.
Oh, absolutely. So, holy!
I feel like I got to
shiza.
speed up. I haven't even talked about 15 years in Key West yet. I'm still talking about
right. Yeah, no, I know. We're keep going. But here's the cool thing: we can do more. We can go as long as you want, and break it into 2 shows if we have to. But I know you probably want to go to bed because you got to do that 4-letter word ending in K tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm on a business trip. Yeah.
But
great deployment. Had so much fun. Like I said, we didn't have to land on the boat at nighttime, which was always fun. And that squadron was really good at landing on the boat. I.e., they always got the award for the best landing grades. It was really competitive. I struggled to be above average in that squadron. I worked really hard. Like I said, it's in the Navy they put a lot of emphasis on your boat grades. When I cruised with 312, we didn't even have a greenie board up. And for your listeners, a greenie board is everyone's passed that line period. And if you had a good pass, it's green. If it's an okay pass, it's yellow. If it's a really bad pass, it's black. And maybe a brown is in there as a bolter. CAD walks into our ready room one day and says, "Hey, where's your greenie board?" Like, "Sir?" Like, "Yeah, get a greenie board up." So when I walk in, I can just instantly judge how well you guys are landing on the back of the boat. So when we got it, it wasn't so much green in the squad. There was a lot of yellow. We call it the yellow board. And our squadron CO says, "Hey, if we are top hook the last line period and this last port call, when we pull into Spain, I will buy all of you a steak dinner and drinks." So we worked really hard. We talked about our passes. We obviously debriefed our passes every time. We went to school. Hey, look at that. We had a lot more yellow on our board. And we were still the booger platoon on the last line period, but we improved so much. He still took us out and bought us some steak dinner.
Oh, shit hot. All right.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, hey, I'll tell you what, let's jump to Key West. Let's talk about the fun shit you got to do in your career.
Yeah.
How is it you wound up in Key West as a Marine? Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
So I was in Iraq with a Marine Reserve Squadron. And that was my first taste of the reserves, VMFA 142 out of Atlanta. And I had such a blast. As a matter of fact, I would have gone to that squadron, but they got decommissioned the year I got off active duty. And I'm talking to a buddy of mine, Tomcat pilot, who says, "Hey, I really want to go to Top Gun or go to the weapons school, but man, they're starting this new squadron in Key West. I think they're going to fly F-5s." And I'm talking to him on the sat phone in Iraq, and I say, "Hey, you know what you're going to do? You're going to go to that squadron, because when I get out in a couple of years, I might want to go there. I'm just not sure yet." So I worked some drug deals, and I got picked up in the squadron. So I get out of the Marine Corps as a major, and I am, there you go, the Flying Gators. We're having a reunion this year, as a matter of fact, we're going to go to in Atlanta.
Nice.
So I go, I'm doing the process of the inter-service transfer. And there's a couple Marines that are interested. So we're like, who do you have to talk to? What do you have to do here? So one of the guys, his call sign's Jethro, lived where I was living at the time when I was getting off active duty. He ended up commissioning me in a Starbucks. So we had to go find a fax machine in Waxahachie, Texas, because Bupers is going to send my commissioning paperwork through a fax
Bureau
machine.
of Personnel. Okay.
Yeah. He swears me in the Starbucks. I sign and then I zap it back to him. And now I'm a lieutenant commander in the Navy. And I get in my car the next day and I drive down to Key West. So while I'm driving down, the OPSO calls me and says, "Hey, Yort, would you like a year of active duty orders?" And I said, "Yes, of course I would," because I didn't have a job. Nothing else waiting for me in 2008. So I arrive, and that's where I meet Chemo. I meet Chemo my first day as I pull into Key West before I go to the squadron. Yeah. And he
hold on. For Fig and I both want to say we're sorry.
Sorry about that, bro.
I can empathize with that too. Yeah.
How's your liver? Have you recovered?
It hurts. It's red.
Okay.
So I'm staying at the Fly Navy, and he and I go to the Thai Island, which, as you know, is right across from the Fly Navy. And I say, "Hey, if I buy you dinner and drinks, you need to tell me how we do it in the Navy." And he proceeds to tell me over the course of a couple hours how we do everything, and how you log drills, what's expected from you, what do you call a chief or a senior chief? Like, what's the protocol going up to the ready room? Yeah, like, thanks. I've only seen a couple Navy movies, but now I've actually learned something. So I go there the next day, and the OPSO says, "Hey, would you like to get your MBA?" It's my first day in the squadron. And I said,
so first of all, they get yours for a year, and now he says, "Hey, would you like to get an MBA?"
Yeah, because we need a fifth person, and you could be our fifth person. I said, "Yeah, I was going to do that anyway." So now they're paying me to get an MBA. And then a couple days later, the guy that commissioned me, Jethro, comes from the Marine Corps. Now we have 2 Marines. We're eventually getting 4. We have a fire team eventually. We're sitting there in the ready room, and someone says, "Quarters. We're going to have quarters." And Jethro looks at me and says, "What's quarters?" And I say, well, they had general quarters on the ship. But during general quarters, you just hang out in the ready room or your rack for like 12 hours. And since you and I don't have jobs here, I guess we just hang out in the ready room. I was like, "Yeah, that makes sense." So we're the only 2 people in the ready room. No one's there. And the CEO of the squadron walks by, looks at us and says, "What the hell are you guys doing?" Like, "Oh, sir, it's quarters. Don't we just
We're in quarters."
Get your asses into the war room. Like, "Oh, sorry." Like, big mistake. But you learn, right?
Well, so
look at Marines, man.
Where were you supposed to be?
We were supposed to be in the war room. It's like the training room where it was an all hands meeting. It's a smaller squad because they have contract maintenance, but 40, 50 people. And Jethro sitting there just looking dumb, drunk, and stupid going, "Oh, I thought it was general quarters. I'm sorry. That'll never happen again."
What the hell do we know?
Until next time.
Yeah. He forget me. I went skiing with him last weekend out here, so I think he's forget. He was 16 years ago. I mean, come on, let's not hold grudges against each other about that.
No,
right?
No. Wow,
that's fantastic.
Well, that's a little different, isn't it?
Yeah. Right.
And what kind of airplanes?
So it was the F5 and Tiger II. They were the Swiss F5s that they actually took care of and had little hours on. And we bought them and shipped them back over here, took the wings off of them, did some minor modifications to them, and put them out on the flight line. So it's what they're still flying today after 17 years, I think, when they took
a Tiger II. What is that?
So it's a 1960s fighter. It's an F5, 1960s fighter that was designed under the military assistance program, really under Eisenhower, but under Kennedy after that, to build a cheap fighter that we could export to third world countries that they could fly, because the Soviet Union was doing that. They were building the MiG-15, Peugeot, I think that's how you pronounce it, the MiG-17 and the MiG-21, and they were building a lot of them. There it is. And
that's the Tiger II?
That's the Tiger II. And
well,
at the time,
it looks a lot like an F5.
It does.
Well, it is. It's an F5 Tiger II.
Okay. Oh, well, there you go. That's
it looks
why.
Like it looks like it's got lurks. Maybe the F5 didn't have that. I don't know. Doesn't it have like a leading edge root extension there?
So that was a serendipitous design. They had to put the motor to move the flaps down. So they extended that and put the motor in there. And when they flew it, they said, "Oh man, this thing handles really well. Well, it must be these leading edge extensions." And that's why the F-18 has them that come all the way to the front, because they figured out when
Ah.
you extend those all the way, you get a lot more lift, especially in the slow speed regime.
Yeah, the lurks. Oh man! Yeah, in fact, they do on the Harriers. We went to 100% lurk. We had like a 40% lurks on the Aviate-B, and I think the Night Attack and the Radar Birds they went to 100% lurks, which is the aerodynamics on that. You wouldn't think 6 inches of extra leading edge root would give that much to you, but man, it just grabbed the air for those of you who ride horses, like a chain underneath the bit on a bridle. It just grabs. Yeah.
And the slower you get, the more effective they are.
Repeat, does that sound better?
Yeah, you do sound better there. Yeah, very good.
That freaking it defaulted back to the MacBook.
Yeah, I was wondering why you sounded like you were down a well for part of
No,
this
but I
show.
checked it earlier and it said it was okay. I don't know.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool. So F5s and the Tiger. Oh, so is that the Tiger too?
So that looks like it's an F5A Freedom Fighter. That was the first thing they built. And it was actually stolen from the T-38. The T-38 was the first supersonic fighter. They didn't have a Class A mishap, mishap where you lose the airframe and potentially a fatality in development. And they thought, what a great design. Supersonic, cheap, easy to build, easy to work on.
Sleek.
You could train, some rural guy without the technical proficiency that it would take to build, to work on an F4, right, with the radar and all the complicated systems. We can sell these and export them. I think they built around 1,800 of them total. And its
thing looks like it's doing Mach 1 sitting on.
No, it really does. It looks fast. Still.
Yeah. So that was on our YouTube feed. We had a picture up of that airplane.
So that's what you guys were flying as the aggressor squadron down there.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. And it's a VMC fighter. You don't want to fly through clouds for extended periods in that.
Yeah. But but as a fighter, how was it? Was it? Could it turn? Could it handle? Could you imitate MiGs? Could you imitate Hornets? What could you do? What was your mission?
We could imitate the MiG-28 almost to perfection, like virtually indistinguishable when we're out there. And then the beauty of the F5 is, you're always talking about strengths and weaknesses. Hey, my plane has a better radar. Well, mine has a better missile. Well, mine can turn more. Mine can go faster. Our only strength was, two strengths. We were small, maneuverable. That was it. We were very small to see, and we were painted. Some jets were painted in blue color. So if you went low, someone was looking at you, and you got sight of a mile. It was very tough to keep sight of us. And then the maneuverability part was really good. It was a very fun plane to fly. Steam gauges, but it was a true stick and rudder airplane in that, our newest guys were all coming from F-18. Some of them F-14s very on towards the end, but virtually everybody was coming in flying F-18s, and they were used to the digital fly-by-wire flight controls and the HUD and all the new Gen 4 and potentially maybe Gen 5 later on down the road. And they sit in the F5 in the simulator and they go, "Oh, is this a joke?" Like, no, this is what we fly. It's all steam gauges. And we called it the Mach 2
How do you
go-kart.
fly on these things?
Yeah.
You call it the what?
We called it the Mach 2 go-kart because it felt like you were flying in a go-kart, but it was Mach 2 capable. If you stripped everything off and you did a big nosedive and wasted all your gas, yeah.
So your mission there was to be aggressors for squadrons that would come in for training, right?
Yeah. So, and it ebbs and flows, but about 85, maybe 90% of the sorties we did were against the RAG or the FRS. And they were against VFA 106 on the East Coast. At the time, VFA 122 and 125 out of Lemoore. And then towards the last couple of years, we did more and more work against the Growlers. They'd come in from Whidbey, their RAG.
And you guys would simulate the threat, whatever the threat that they wanted to fight against. You would fly it like that kind of airplane and use those countries' tactics, right?
Exactly, and that's a good point. We had SMEs, so subject matter experts in the squadron, that would study threat airplanes, threat missiles, threat tactics, threat pilots, and they would brief us. And tactics change. So we would change how we replicated the threat, really how the customer wanted. but
Sure.
we would give them what they wanted. And if they didn't know what they wanted, we would kind of tell them what they wanted in a very nice way, hopefully using bogey charm, and, wouldn't be rude about it.
So who was more fun to fly against? New students or fleet guys?
Well, you had an advantage over the new students.
Sure.
Even some of the good
Yeah.
ones, they just didn't have the time in the seat. But
Right.
if you could hold your own or even get offensive or win against an instructor, you knew you were flying your jet pretty well, because they generally had the advantage in almost every way. Thrust to weight, weapon systems, obviously much better radar.
Sure.
We had an old pulse radar in the F5 that we hardly turned on the last couple of years because it was more likely to start a fire than you would to be able to get that safe right.
Of course.
But we did a couple upgrades to it. So they ended up installing jammers. They took all the guns out in the first year or two, maybe right before I got there, and they had weights in there just as ballast. But then they started installing Durfin-based jammers out of the nose that were really good at shutting down modern radars, to the point where they either wouldn't see you, or they would see you in another piece of the sky, or they would see you and potentially 5 other airplanes that did not exist.
That's all right. That's great.
Right.
Well, that really confuses them when they get to the merge and suddenly, they think there's 5 and there's 1, or they think you're at 2:00 and you're actually, somewhere else, right? That's cool.
Yeah,
that's good.
Well,
that's good.
Or they would fire a missile at a target that didn't exist, or maybe a couple missiles, and now they're down to potentially no missiles or just guns. And that's when we would love to go to the merge with them, because if they were actually counting their missiles, which they should, maybe we run them out of missiles based on jamming their radar, and they've taken invalid shots at that point.
That's good learning right there.
Yeah, right. No kidding.
Hey, well, go ahead, repeat.
No, keep going. Mine's slightly off topic, so keep going.
Well, I was going to back up, and did I miss something? You said you were with the reserve squadron at Al Assad in a VBID. What was that?
So two stories on that. So the Marine Corps really trains pilots how to be forward air controllers, and I think the Navy and the Army try to do it, but you're going to go through the basic school and you're going to spend 6 months with these guys. So I'm out at Al Assad, and I'm flying with this reserve squadron, pretty laid back group of guys. I'm flying with a CO, and the CO says, "Hey, you want to lead this one, Yort?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "All right, well, you're all briefed up. Unless we get a troop in contact, then we'll just hang out for an hour and we'll take off on time." So we sit around for about half an hour. And sure enough, the duty gets a call from the fixed wing tasker, says, "Hey, there's troops in contact. We need you up near the Syrian border." So we're running out to our jets. I wish there was a klaxon, but there's not. We're running out there. We start the jets. We get airborne. We're getting briefed. And I check in on the appropriate frequency. And the forward air controller is actually a really good buddy of mine.
Shit hot.
We went through flight school together. He was in Buford. His call sign is Special. You can put 2 and 2 together. It really goes with his last name too. But
Captain K.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Is it special ed?
He has been called that, but I don't know if it's the special ed that you were thinking of.
Okay, continue.
Yeah. So it was really nice to check in and hear his voice. He knows me. I know him. We've known each other for, at this point, 6 years. And he starts to tell us in a very informal way what he wants us to do. And he says, "Hey, there is a VBIED factory, which is a vehicle-borne improvised explosive device factory. They're building these things on the Syrian border. And they're building these cars, and they're driving them to Baghdad, and they're blowing them up. I need you guys to take this building out." Like, well, we've got Zunis, we've got JDAMs, we got all these cool weapons. And I said, "Well, what do you want?" And he says, "Well, I see that you have a laser guided Maverick. Can you try to shoot that thing into it?" Like, "Oh, of course." Side note about that. My dad was the project manager for that missile when we lived in Eglin Air Force Base. I'm like, "Oh man, I'm carrying the missile my dad worked on for years. I'm going to hose this thing off and it's going to destroy this building." So the problem with that was there was a sandstorm that was going on,
Oh, so you couldn't get the contrast.
and there was a big war. I mean, there was a lot of buildings that tanks had blown up and other people dropped on. Yeah, so there was just a lot of smoke. So we tried everything we could do. The other problem with that is it wasn't clear that I could laze for it and shoot it. So I could shoot it, but the CO of the squadron, my wingman, was going to laze for it. So we tried everything we could do, different angles, different altitude, shut the missile down, shut it back up. It's doing its scan. It's just not getting the energy back off. So what happened? My wingman got to drop the JDAM on this thing, and it was a huge explosion because of what they were building there. I mean, all of these bombs that they were building to drive these trucks into Baghdad just all blew up within 5 seconds. It was it's nice.
Nice.
Yeah. Bittersweet. I would have loved to have hosed that missile off.
Right.
Well, it was tag team, right? I mean, you got half the kill because you lazed it. That's pretty awesome.
I may have gotten a point or two.
Yeah, that's the assist, right?
Yeah, it's like the assist.
That's not the goal. That's the assist.
You pass it to the guy that makes a 3-pointer. Hey, he couldn't have shot it if you didn't pass it to him.
All right.
That's all good. All right, we're going to reattack that special part when we're off air.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, holy smokes.
Yeah, he ended up flying F5s with me. So he was the third Marine to check in. And then we had another guy by the call sign of Boo to check in. So we had a fire team of Marines down in Key West flying F5s. Yeah.
Nice.
Making fun of the Navy guys the whole time.
Right. Fantastic. So a fire team is 4 Marines.
Yeah.
It's how it's all built. Yeah.
It's the smallest unit. It's the smallest unit, right?
Small unit leadership. So they teach you. Fantastic. Holy shit. So when you're in PLCs and you knew you wanted to go fly, did you have any idea what was ahead of you? Any inkling?
So we had Lawman there. Big motivation on the story that you were talking about.
Yeah.
He shared with us the last week of seniors about what he had to do. Was Magic his call sign?
Magic, yes. Yeah. VMA 331, the Bumblebees was, that was his call sign. Yep.
Yeah.
He shared an approach article with the pilots. He called us in the last couple of days and said, hey, guys, hey, welcome. You've pretty much made it at this point. A lot of you are going to go to flight school. I want to give you each a copy of this approach article I wrote. And he goes into very explicit detail about what happened that day. And I believe it was entitled The Day the Magic Died. Was that it?
Yeah.
That sound familiar?
Yeah. So I told you that we had great shows with him, and the downer was he talked about Woody.
Yeah.
And he Woody asked him to lead the flight. He did. Woody left his pregnant bride on the pier in Morehead City, and he wound up escorting Woody's remains back to his bride and his family, with whom I remain friends to this day. We were deployed in '92 to Westpac, and I've got a great picture of Woody's widow and my wife and another gal going to the Marine Corps ball without all of us.
Yeah.
So, but that would have been it. And
so to answer your question, we're all there to be Marine officers, and some of us are air contracts, and we don't want to be known as that. You don't want to identify yourself. Hey, I'm going to flight school. But every once in a while, when one of the pilots kind of pull you aside, it was just added motivation. The second time I went through, my platoon commander was a Cobra pilot, and he shared some really neat stories with us. And if that wasn't motivation, I don't know what would have been.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, very cool. All right. Well, we've been going at this just shy of 2 hours. Any other big ones you can share before we go off to the extra for our donors only?
Well, I spent 15 years in Key West.
Okay.
I had 13.
But nothing ever happened
skills.
there exciting.
I mean, that might be 2 more episodes. But
okay. Well, hey, you know what? Come back and do 2 more with us. Seriously.
Yeah. The follow up to where I was happened in Key West. So I guess we could kind of tell.
Oh yeah. So let's close out your opening story, and then we'll go to the extras.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. So if you remember, my call sign was Viper 2, and I was in about 100 miles west of Key West, and they wanted me to go fly to the Phantom airspace, and they said it was because they think they lost an airplane. And of course, when I heard that, I get this, the feeling you get in your stomach where you just, oh my gosh, this is what it's like. By the way, I got to mention this. I wasn't flying an F5. I was flying a Hawker Hunter Mark 58 as a civilian contractor. So I'm wearing a flight suit without rank on it, flying another airplane for a company that had the contract down there. And I can only surmise they chose me because generally the Hawker Hunter has a lot of gas.
Yeah.
So I have 100 miles to fly to get down to this spot. And even after that, I still would have had 30 to 45 minutes after that, halfway through the mission. So anyway, I'm going down there and I'm thinking about it. It's like, okay, who would have been down in the Phantom airspace? I'm starting to narrow it down to a couple people, and I'm starting to get this just sinking feeling in my gut. My hands are starting to sweat, and I don't want to throw up, but I'm like, anything that's in my stomach, it just feels like all this acid building up. So I get there, and it's the squadron CO that's really low on gas. He's circling overhead. He's the mission commander. And we're looking for this pilot. We see an oils, probably a fuel slick. It's down there. We don't see a raft. We don't see anything. We don't hear anything. About 5 or 10 minutes go by. We're just like, oh. And I'm going through the whole process in my head that you guys have had to go through. Okay, there's going to be an investigation. There's going to be a funeral. There's going to be a lot of this stuff. And I'm starting to narrow it down. I don't know who it is. I don't want to know, but I'm starting to narrow it down to who would have been down there. And he leaves. So the squadron CO leaves and he says, Yort, you have the mission lead. Now I'm just a nasty contractor out there and a Hawker Hunter flying this thing, looking. And I hear on the frequency his voice.
Oh, shit. Huh?
Navy aircraft, this is so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. And I went from just being down in the dumps to sheer joy in about half a second. And if I told you I wasn't crying, I'd be lying. I had tears coming down my cheek because I went, oh my God, this son of a bitch is alive and he's in a raft down there after thinking for maybe 20 minutes at this point that he didn't make it.
Yeah.
So I got to watch the helicopter. It was the Navy helicopter didn't even get launched in time. It was a Coast Guard helicopter came in.
There you go, Sticks.
No.
Yeah, that was it.
There it is. Sticks has got his propeller
Giving
hat
Sticks
on
his
right
due.
now. You can see him in the background there.
Sticks, you're on camera. Stop touching yourself.
So Coast Guard guy plucked him out.
Yeah.
Right?
So of
That's
course
awesome.
I'm on my phone taking pictures. Now, of course I'm like, I got to get this because he's going to want to show his family. And he gets flown to the hospital there in Key West. I do a couple more circles. All the other airplanes are landed. And I come back and I land, I shut down. First of all, I call my boss and I just say, hey, just so you know, there was a mishap. It wasn't one of us. And he's like, woo, okay. And then I call my wife and I just say, hey, I'm going to be home late tonight. I didn't tell her why. And she says, well, where are you going? I said, well, I'm going to go to the hospital. She says, well, I'm at the hospital. Your son has strep throat.
Oh, shit.
Like, really? Okay.
Son of a bad word.
So, unbeknownst to me, my son was next to the pilot because when he got brought in and got his flight suit changed out, they're in beds right next to each other.
No.
And I got to go there. The whole squadron shows up. Of course, we're high-fiving him. We're so happy to see him. And, then, of course, the investigation happens, and, it's the rest is history. But that was one of those days where you just think you lost somebody, and you're starting to give up hope. And then you hear the voice on the radio just pop up, and your whole emotion just diametrically opposed all the way to the top again.
Well, I'm glad it worked out like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real.
Oh, fantastic. Right?
That's the best.
Oh.
Wow.
Well, shit, you got to come back and do some Key West stories with us.
Yeah.
Of course, we could have our show canceled and have you and Chemo back at the same time.
There's a rumor that they put the door in the ready room because of B in Key West. I like to think that's an exaggeration, but I think Chemo and I in the same room at the same time, you might get shut down. I think the FCC might have a problem with it.
Somehow, I
Hey,
believe
Chemo just texted me and said, you are a liar and no one should believe anything you say.
Well,
I don't know.
Coming from Chemo, that's a compliment.
that's a compliment, right? Yeah, absolutely. The only guy who's taking a piss live on our podcast.
Well, hey, in his own defense, he didn't know that he was on camera. He thought it was audio only. He tells me this. So Kimo and I just did OE together a few weeks ago.
At least we didn't see his junk.
He said, "You son of a bitch." He says, I thought it was just audio. I thought that we were just seeing each other for fun. I didn't know it was being recorded.
Yeah.
Oh, holy shiza.
Yeah.
He didn't tell me that part because I called him a couple weeks ago and said, "Hey, how does this thing run? Audio, video, what did you wear? Did you put on earbuds?" He's like,
he was naked. He said he was naked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because there's other good stuff, man. $100,000 Chick-fil-A runs, Hurricanes at Disney, and all that stuff. We're going to do another episode with you soon.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So I think in the meantime, though, Fig, we need to land this airplane.
Yeah, let's do it. We've been at this. Going on 2 hours.
Just shy of 2 hours, man. Yeah, another fantastical show. God damn, all these pilots we get to talk to. It's just a thrill. I cannot believe
The stories never. I never get tired of hearing the stories, ever.
Indeed. Land away, Fig. Turn final, brother.
Well, all right. Let's see. We need to say some thanks. First of all, let's start off with saying thanks to Sticks, who's been in the background throwing all the art and the words up, and he's got his special propeller hat on, and I saw him bouncing up and down in his chair a little bit when he found
was
out
sitting on his collective.
Coast Guard guy that plucked your buddy out of the water. I don't know if you know this or not, Yort, but my man Sticks in the background there was a former Coast Guard helicopter pilot.
Yeah, on the pre-brief, he showed us some pictures. It was nice.
Okay.
Nice to look at those.
He's got a few hundred hoists. Just a few hundred.
And when Sticks isn't there, it's usually Bago. So we always need to say thanks to Bago.
Yeah.
And thanks to Dave Hamilton and Sadie at backbeatmedia.com for helping us put all this together so it can come out to you. You can hear it and see it, right?
Absolutely. They make it happen. So, and thank you, Yort, for your service, and thanks to all actives and veterans and the families who missed birthdays and anniversaries and funerals and weddings and all that. I mean, that was hard. It's a hard life, and it's the families who make it possible for the veterans and the active to do what they do. So, our gratitude goes out to them.
For reals. Badass. BDS Aviation Photography. Thanks, brother. I know if he's not still on, he was on here earlier.
Yeah. He is the Norman Rockwell of photography.
He is, man. Of aviation photography.
Yeah.
For real. Yeah.
It's art. The shit he does is art. It's not pictures. BDS Aviation Photography. Let's see. What else? To Robbie Walling and HSI Wealth Strategies. Robbie, you've supported us. We're grateful to you for that. If you're listening and you are going to retire someday, give Robbie a call. Don't be a moron.
Don't be a moron.
Call.
Don't be a moron.
Do it. Let him help you. He can help you be independently wealthy in retirement. He can. No bullshit. So, just saying.
Let's see. We're going to do an extra, and that's a thanks to all of our Patreons who have lost all judgment and throw money at us. And we're humbled and honored that you do that. First of all, we do question your judgment, but we're glad you have no judgment because this thing costs money to produce.
Yeah, and
if it wasn't for
more
you,
than I ever thought.
I've
been part of podcasting for just shy of 20 years now. I had no idea how much it cost to put a show on, and
I didn't have a clue.
Yeah. No.
Anyway, there's some expense in the background that we don't know. We didn't know anything about. Anyway, thank you for making this possible.
Yeah, indeed. Hey, could you wander over to SoleraWest.us/rate, follow the links, and throw 5 stars on our show, please. If you got to throw 4 stars or less on a show, go find somebody else's show.
Listen, if you can't honestly give us 5 stars, tell us what it would take to make it 5, because we're trainable.
Send a nastygram to Sticks at sticks@sothereIwas.us and tell him what he's doing wrong.
Send it to Sticks. Tell Sticks he needs to unfuck this whole thing.
We're getting a double bird shot off camera from him. Oh, that's fantastic.
I love you. I love you,
Sticks, man. Love you, Sticks. Hey, Fig, I hear it's coming up on global warming is occurring over the next several months.
5 degrees in Kansas City today, and I got out my so there I was bikini and told my wife it was either time she put it on or I was going to put it on, and I'm not going to tell you how that went. However, you should get a so there I was bikini for your significant other because it's badass. Hey, and you know what? If you're not a bikini guy, get the thong. I'm wearing the thong right now. I'll show
Thank
you
for
after
that,
we
Fig.
go.
You son of a bitch. Thank you for that. Ow. No, I won't be able to sleep tonight. But
we got a shit ton of merch. A shit ton.
There's shot glasses and drinking glasses and coffee mugs and beach towels and clocks and rugs and all kinds of cool merch with
back
really
scratchers, shoe horns.
Yeah. Look, with all kinds of cool graphics on there, designed by none other than Sticks.
We got a mustache trimmer that might work for Yort. I don't know because that's a magnificent mustache.
That's a Navy mustache there, man.
Slightly out of regs, I think.
Well,
whatever. We don't care.
Yeah. So, oh man.
All right. What else?
Then,
what did we get?
I feel like there's 2 things we've forgotten. Not one, not uno, but
that'd be the Dos things, the Dos Gringos.
The 2 white guys, Dos Gringos.
Those are the Dos Gringos, the 2 F-16 guys that make the Air Force sound good. 4 albums, not a bad song on any album. If you're having a bad day, listen to one of their songs because it'll make you laugh.
It will lift your spirits. It will. So, until next week, folks, all I can give you is this little bit of advice. Stay safe and check 6.
There I was, crossing the pond, and you could see that I wasn't exactly fond of all the shit I was wearing on that day. Now an F-16 is cramped enough, but it's even worse with all that stuff supposed to save your life. But we knew there was no way. 'Cause when you're going down the North Atlantic, man, it's over.
Hold on. What?
He said it was over.
Fucking out and going home. Jeez, I cracked myself up.
I never know what's coming.
Out.
That's awesome.
I got to find some more good ones. You got some amazing ones. Yeah, we got Godfather. We got Family Guy. We got all kinds of shit we need to include. But fantastic.
Hey,
that was fun.
Chemo says his stories are better than yours.
Someone has just basically slapped you in the face with a glove.
I know.
Ask Chemo about my amphibious assault when I was rushing the squadron. I took all my clothes off and ran into the mess. His wife was complimenting me on that night.
Oh, boy. On that note, I'm going to end the stream. And we're going to go do our extra. Thank you for being with us, everybody. Good night. God bless. Stay safe.